a by-blow account of the budget. The man of the moment this day is Ambassador Uhuru, the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, and we will be live from all bureaus as well as having a solid spread of our panelists. Now, the budget is expected to be presented at exactly 2:30 p.m. and we shall be bringing you all the details as they unfold. Now, let's begin by taking a look at some of the figures that surround this current budget, and of course we have some of that data coming up for you. Now, the Treasury CS Uhuru is today going to read that, and of course the national budget right now has been estimated to be at 3.31 trillion shillings. It's the 2022-2023 budget right there, as you can see on your screen, and this is the total sum of 3.6 trillion shillings, up from 2.7 trillion shillings in 2020-2021 financial year. Now, you can see that there is an uptick right there. The total taxes is 1.77 trillion shillings, and loans and grants 1.63 trillion shillings, and these are what are expected to fund that particular total amount for the budget. And of course 1.93 trillion shillings shall go to the national government, and of course there are other areas where the monies shall be directed to. Also, we shall have 1.88 trillion shillings going to the executive, 37.88 billion shillings going to Parliament, and 17.92 billion shillings going to the judiciary. Also, we shall have 1.33 trillion shillings. Consolidated fund service shall be given that amount, and also county governments are expected to receive 370 billion shillings. Far from that, we will have National Treasury getting 1.67.8 billion shillings, and Ministry of Health getting 121.1 billion shillings. The Ministry of Defence shall get 119.8 billion shillings. Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation 78.3 billion shillings, and the Ministry of Energy getting 75.4 billion shillings. All right, the figures that you've just seen on your screen are part of the distribution of the 3.3 trillion shilling budget that is expected to be read by CS Uhuru Yatani at around 2:30, actually exactly 2:30 this afternoon. We have our reporters staged across the country to give us an overview of what the feeling on the ground is, what Wananchi are expecting, and of course some of the issues that they are facing that they are hoping that the CS is going to address, particularly in these harsh economic times. And we start off in Kisumu, where Kevin Ogutu is on standby. Kevin Ogutu, what are you hearing on the ground with regards to this year's budget reading?
Very good morning, and coming to you from Kisumu, as you mentioned. Well, this budget statement comes at a time when, of course, the country is undergoing several challenges. I'm here in Kisumu, all right, but right behind me is a queue of boda operators who are actually queuing for the purposes of getting fuel so that they can continue running their business. But one area of focus here is the aspect of employment or unemployment, so to speak, and that is one thing that we want to engage the people of Kisumu here, even as we wait for that statement from Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, that is Ambassador Uhuru Yatani. The background that we have so far is that there is a shift by the government, according to the government strategic medium debt plan, shifting from foreign borrowing to domestic borrowing, and this one in a way is going to affect the locals who wish to borrow from the very institutions that the government will be borrowing for the purposes of bridging the gap. But apart from that, we are also aware that over 500,000 job opportunities have been lost. This is because of COVID-19 and other things, and this is also projected to increase, and that's why I'm here with some of the residents of Kisumu, just to for us to get to hear from them what this means for them. The aspect of unemployment is a very serious thing cutting across the country. So welcome to KTN News. We expect Ambassador Uhuru Yatani to read the statement, but of course, as a resident of Kisumu and a Kenyan, you must be having something that you like to share, particularly given the background that we have, the kind of jobs that, the number of jobs that have been lost, and those that are projected to be lost.
Yes, my name is Joshua Mata, coming from Kisumu CBD. Right now, we expect the budget to go down. As he will read the budget today, we expect the budget to go down because we are facing a number of challenges down here. Right now, we are suffering from the hike of prices on commodities, other things like fuel crisis, and down here we are suffering. So when he hiked the budget, then he has to tell us why he has hiked the budget and how he will recover or will bridge that gap. Because we expect, we have not healed from the pandemic crisis. We are still in between now, and now a number of problems are facing up, and we as the informal sector, you see, we have now engaged in other things rather than doing our daily normal duties. So we expect the ambassadors to tell us, the Kenyans, how we are going to go about this budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's also try and get some other opinion here. I'm seeing a number of residents of Kisumu. Welcome to KTN News. Let us talk about the budget and what you feel as a Kenyan and a resident of Kisumu. What would you like to tell Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Uhuru Yatani?
Yes, asante sana. Hii kwa majina naitwa Ezekiel. Naomba hii budget ikiwezekana watupunguzie upande wa mafuta, vile upande wa bidhaa ambao tunatumia kwa nyumba kama vile mafuta ya kupikia na vinginevyo. Kwa saa hii sisi watu wa bodaboda tunasumbuka zaidi. Hata ukiangalia laini ni mrefu na unawekewa mafuta kidogo, mafuta ya 150 lita moja tu. Sasa mimi ningeomba serikali kama wataweza kutusaidia mafuta irudi iwe kama kawaida. Asante.
Well, I'm seeing another resident of Kisumu here. I don't know whether you wish to speak to us, but yes, I have one here. We are talking about the issue of budget 2022-2023. And if you could just turn around so that Kenyans can see you. Well, I know you are queuing for fuel here, but let's maybe start with your name and what you like Cabinet Secretary for Treasury to hear from you as a Kenyan.
Kwa jina naitwa John Kaunda. Mimi mkaaji hapa Kisumu, na kitu yenye naona watupunguzie maneno ya fuel. kwa sababu fuel ndio kila kitu. Nateseka sana, magari zimepangana hapa laini, sisi watu wa pikipiki tumepangana, na sisi na hii ndio daily bread. Unapata unamaliza kwa laini almost 5 hours, 3 hours. Sasa wapunguza maneno ya fuel. Wasitunyanyasa kama sisi wananchi wa kawaida. Hiyo ndio naomba tu.
Okay. Well, some of the reactions, and this being quite a timely thing because as you can see from the pictures, it's quite a situation here. But the bottom line is that they are talking about increasing cost of living that has hit the roof, and of course they're expecting Treasury Cabinet Secretary to probably respond to that. I don't know whether you'd like to speak to us. We are talking about budget 2022-2023 and the reactions of Kenyans, particularly from Kisumu.
Yeah, the most serious thing that the budget should address is a rising cost of living. Just imagine the food prices, the prices of basic commodities. Actually, we are suffering. So the government should cushion the common mwananchi. The issue of fuel is here. Today you're waking up, there's no milk. So those are some of the sensitive issues that the government should address. Yeah. Imagine queuing like this and you're getting a fuel you're only given at 150 and you are told that is enough. So what will we do? There are so many things that are grinding to an halt, and so the government should help. If you have a listening government, they should help the common mwananchi. Yeah, people are suffering out here. Okay. That is the ground, yes. Okay,
thank you so much. And of course, Trix, this is a very delicate moment, particularly given that we are going to elections. And of course, with the 3.3 trillion budget, Kenyans will be keen to see what kind of additional taxes, if any, that they will be subjected to. And this being, of course, an election year, this could have implications, as the government might appear to be one that is not caring. So, of course, all eyes are now set on Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Uhuru Yatani, as he set to make this important speech. Of course, we'll follow it through and, of course, update our viewers appropriately. Back to you, Studio Trix.
Thank you very much, Kevin Ogutu. Those views perhaps just echoing the feeling across the country, especially when it comes to those high prices of commodities. We have Kenyans talking about gas and petrol, and of course even cooking oil is something that is making living quite costly and of course very uncomfortable. There are other areas that of course are going to influence this budget, or perhaps areas of interest, given that this is a year where the country is going through a drought. Food prices will also come into focus. COVID recovery has been blamed. You remember those subsidies that the country and everyone was getting? They are being blamed for some of these high cost, the high cost of living today. And of course, various elements are going to factor in, and all eyes shall be on CS Uhuru Yatani later on in this day. We have Duncan Haemba and Brenda Kerubo stationed outside Parliament. What is the feeling where you are? Over to you, Duncan.
Good morning, Trix. Yes, at Parliament, it's basically all systems go as the country awaits that hour in the afternoon when the reality will be dawning. In terms of activity, yes, the media has already arrived and has pitched tent at the designated area. Of course, the restrictions has been limited because of other activities going on, but as you can see right behind us, the security men have already taken their position, which will be increasing or will be scaled up as time goes by when the hour and the man of the moment prepares to come to Parliament. And it is a reality that will be dawning, because whatever is coming to be presented or read to Kenyans formally, it's no longer a secret, but it is an open secret that it is a 3 trillion budget that is identified with an 846 billion deficit. A very expensive one for that matter, a very ambitious one, but the question will be, where will the National Treasury get the deficit to bridge that gap for the 3.3 trillion budget to stand? Will they raid Kenyans more in terms of raising the taxation, or will they resort to borrowing? Remember that Kenyans already things are thick economic-wise. But I will be engaging Brenda Kerubo from the economy desk. Brenda, looking at this budget, low-key by all means, other factors, what makes this budget unique, so to speak?
I mean, Hayamba, let's first begin with just the process. It's coming 2 months earlier because of the elections. We are now in April, and the elections has meant that the whole budget making process has changed altogether. Then number two, I mean, we're looking at a debt that hit 8.2 trillion shillings in December. So already by the time we are hitting the new financial year in July, the debt would of course have escalated. It is estimated that for every 10 shillings that is collected by the Kenya Revenue Authority, at least 6 shillings is going into paying debts. So I mean, that is a key factor. At the same time, we do know that commodity prices have been increasing over time. The situation has been made worse by the tensions in Eastern Europe. Of course, there we have in the Russia and the Ukraine conflict. At the same time, we do have the coronavirus that has really impacted the supply chain reactions. Of course, we are feeling it much here when it comes to the relations of the fuel prices. So it's going to be quite an interesting budget. Is it because of the back of the pandemic? Or number two, is it because of the current situations with the Russian? Or number three, is it because of the elections? So it is a tough balance for the CS Uhuru Yatani. We're waiting to see where exactly he will be looking at getting finances to, get the budget going. Number one, the economy hasn't been doing well. We did see last year 0.6%. They're estimating this year it will grow by at least 6.6%. Remember, business activity does slow down during the elections, even as business people take a wait-and-see approach. So most likely it is going to be a tough environment for most Kenyans and businesses, even as the Treasury and the taxman looks to collect more taxes from the current people who are still there.
Talking of a tough period for Kenyans, of course right now it is a reality that every household, everybody can now feel the weight of the economy that is not performing so well. I mean, the household commodities basics, they are now out of reach. This week we've witnessed the dramatic standoff between the oil dealers and the common mwananchi, and you've seen now the reality that the economy has always been in the red, but maybe many didn't take it serious. But this is the season that this is coming out. In terms of the farmers, we know that the bread basket of the country is largely in the North Rift. Until early this week, it was almost impossible for many to afford fertilizers. Those are the people that we do expect that they will be producing food to secure the country's grain basket or strategic food reserves. So what does this mean to Kenyans now that everybody at this particular juncture is feeling the reality that the economy is in the red?
I'll just walk you through what the central bank governor said last week when he was giving his briefing. He did say it's going to be a tough year for Kenyans. Number one, he said that we are not going to access the fuel subsidy 100%. So definitely we are looking at the fuel cost surging. That means diesel, petroleum and kerosene. Diesel is used in transporting goods. It's used for the tractors and, in food production. So definitely it's going to be transmitted back into the food cost of food production. And number two, petroleum, I mean, it's going to affect movement within the city. So that means a decrease when it comes to business activities. So of course it is going to be a tough balancing act. Number two, the rains, they don't look like they're performing as we anticipated. So that's not a good thing when it comes to the agriculture sector. Remember, that was one of the key concerns that we had for last year. The sector, which contributes slightly more than 20% to the gross domestic product, did not perform very well as anticipated last year. This year also the rains are not doing very well, so that is a key concern in relation to that, which means that we are looking at importing more, which means in return that we are also looking at, the fiscal deficit, which is set to go higher because of the balance of payments. If you're going to cough up more money to get more goods into the country because we can't produce enough, then that doesn't give a very pretty picture when it comes to the economy. So it's a grim picture, but at the same time, we still have to sort of make a rosy outlook. When you're looking at the tourism sector, it is recovering from the pandemic. More people from Europe are traveling now, from the Americas are traveling now. We're looking at the seasons whereby tea is going to be booming. So the tourism sector and the hospitality industry, somewhat they're getting back on track. The manufacturing sector as well, still going very well. Remember, the electricity prices have come down, so that is a pretty picture when it comes to that. But at the same time, like you're saying, the fuel costs and these other external factors, which are external shocks, will most likely disrupt the sort of clear-cut recovery path that we have. So we're waiting to see what the CS is going to say, because for his options, it's either one, the economy continues growing at a very stellar performance so that we create more jobs and more employment so that they can tax more people into the tax bracket, or number two, they can increase the taxes for already taxing people. So, you know, people like you and I, people like the landlords and the business operators, put in more taxes for them so that they can increase their revenues, or alternatively, altogether, they can start looking at other sectors that are not included in the tax bracket.
But the question maybe will be, if the intention would be to increase the taxation, what are you going to tax when the majority, when millions are jobless, and the group that is responsible for generating the taxes is already overburdened? Now, does that leave us with the option of more borrowing again?
Exactly, and that's the key question that CS Yatani will be answering today, and even as we wait for the finance bill, because they still have a huge deficit that they need to plug, so definitely they will borrow. And at the same time, also, they need to look at other alternative revenue collection areas. The informal sector, for instance, over the years, they have been really trying to include these people who are not paying taxes so that they can also increase the base. You know, people like the mamambogas and others who are really, you can't really tell what they're doing, but they are still contributing to the gross domestic products of the country. So including them will be a key factor. Also the digital operators. I mean, digital platform has become a key sector when it comes to job creation. The influencers and also the people who are doing writing jobs online. Those are the key people that, you know, the taxman will be going for. So, I mean, they have to look for other avenues. The other alternative is, like you said, they either borrow to plug the deficit or look for other options.
Now, thus, as we bring this discussion to a close, there's that aspect of the economy. You've mentioned that it is said that it's on the steady, it's having some sort of semblance of a stellar performance. But again, the political season is kicking in, succession politics. The economy, the tourism sector that you've said that was actually regaining its ground. Again, we are going into a very tense political moment. Do you think the succession politics are going actually to influence or make things to complicate matters further?
I mean, but politics and business are just one of those two key factors that you can't separate when it comes to Kenya. And looking at where we are going, everything has moved into, you know, election mode. Everybody's campaigning. Everybody's saying which seat that they are going for. And people on the ground are still complaining about the commodity prices, about the situation, you know, on the ground. I do know that the Senate and the Parliament are now reconsidering talking about the fuel levy and how the finances were used under that category. But at the same time, little attention is being paid to the factors that are hitting the economy right now. So like you're saying earlier, we have key sectors that contribute significantly to the GDP of the country. Of course, like you said, the tourism industry. Even as we go closer to the elections, of course, we will see slight dip when it comes to the numbers because, you know, history dictates that, you know, people sort of distance themselves a bit so that they can see what regime is coming into play. And at the same time, sectors that you've mentioned, the agriculture sector, which sort of looks a bit dim, that one as well, and the manufacturing sector. If the CS does indeed introduce new taxes or increase the taxes for this manufacturing sector, then, like you're saying, the recovery will start, you know, declining, because it means then people who are operating, the companies that are operating in this sector will most likely not hire more people. And then number two, they will also reduce their productivity because they just can't afford the inputs. And then number three, they will continue taking a wait and see approach because they also don't know whether the next person who will be coming into play will also increase the taxes. Because let's face it, it's going to be a tough balancing act for the next president who's coming in to balance the economy that we are in.
Tough balancing act indeed. Brendan, you're just sounding like a prospective future CS Matters economy, or that is where your dreams are leading you to.
We are so loyal to Standard, aren't we, Kayamba?
Well, Trix, today this will be a budget like no other. As they've said, it's a legacy budget for President Uhuru Kenyatta. He has less than he has few days remaining. Then he exits the top seat. For CS Uhuru Yatani, it's also goodbye at the National Treasury. Here at Parliament as well, the Speaker is also transition after 10 years a stint at Parliament. That is the same. We also have the Clerk of the National Assembly. So, and then who is exiting, who is set to retire. And then members of Parliament. Today, we don't really expect many of them to attend. Those ones that will attend, perhaps there will be very few, because we know that the party nominations are underway for some party. Majorly will be next week, and therefore they are on the ground campaigning. So we'll expect a very small number for those that will be here. We are not so sure what will be up the sleeves this time round, whether everything will be flowing smoothly, or there will be hitches here and there, disruptions or not. At the end of the day, this is a house of politics. It's politics that is transacted here. We don't know, after listening to the presentation and budget estimates, if there will be anything further unusual that might happen. But again, it is a wait-and-see situation. These are politicians. Politics will be at play. We'll be waiting to see what will be happening as we give you what they call blow-by-blow account, or is it wall-to-wall coverage?
It is business and economics.
Business and economics and politics, for
and
that
politics.
matter. Back to you in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Duncan Hayamba, and our possible future CS, Brenda Kerubo, CS for Treasury, for that very in-depth analysis of what to expect today and some of the elements that are coming out. Of course, in focus, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and issues of debt management, employment, and where all this money is going to be coming from. The 3.3 trillion shillings. Overall, we shall have a 3.63 trillion budget that's going to be read exactly at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon by CS Uhuru Yatani, who clearly has his work cut out for him. There are various areas, of course, of concern that are coming out from the public. We've heard earlier on from Kevin Ogutu, who's